There's a question that most of us never been asked directly, not by a doctor, not by a therapist, not by the people closest to us. Three simple words: who hurt you? Not what happened to you, not how you are coping, and not what you need to do next. Just who hurt you. So today's guest has built an entire therapeutic framework around the courage that it takes to answer the question honestly. And what he's found after decades of work and his own journey through pain is that the answer to that question might be the beginning of the most important healing of your life. So, hey, dear listeners, welcome back to another powerful episode of Mind Meets Machine, part of Healthy Mind by Avik podcast network, where we explore the deeper dimensions of how we think, feel, heal, and function as human beings. I'm your host, Avik, and I want to say upfront that today's conversation is one that I think has the potential to genuinely change something for the person who is listening right now. So, with this, I have a very lovely guest. Please welcome Robert Blake. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and your audience.
Amazing, amazing. So, dear listeners, before we get deep dive into this conversation today, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Robert. So, Robert is a psychotherapist, author, former university professor, survivor of childhood trauma, and the founder of the Source Completion Therapy Center. So he is the creator of Source Completion Therapy, a three-phase process designed to cleanse and permanently heal deep emotional wounds. And he's also the author of Give Back the Pain, which brings the process of life through real human stories. So, over the course of his career, he has helped thousands of people emerge from trauma, abuse, emotional suffering, and find their way back to what he calls a brighter heart. So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Robert.
Thanks.
Amazing. So, Robert, I definitely would love to start with something personal, like because I think it matters that our listeners understand not just what of your work, but why factor behind it. So you have been open about the fact that you are yourself a survivor of trauma and you have spent decades helping others heal from that very kind of pain you know from the inside. So what I'm curious about is like not just about the clinical details, but also about the human journey. Like what was it like to move from being someone who has, I mean, who was hurt to becoming someone who dedicated their life to helping others heal. So, what transformation? I mean, if you can share.
Sure. So let's start with who hurt me, and that's my mother. Okay. My mother started abusing me when I was a toddler. Now, I believe it was about 3 years old. She started beating me. She started degrading me. She humiliated me. And that was painful. It was scary and it was a difficult time for me. When she would beat me, she would sometimes use her fists, sometimes her open hand. Sometimes she would use whatever was available, whatever she looked around, whether it was a shoe. She liked hitting me with a wooden spoon from the kitchen, a big wooden spoon. She particularly liked the belt buckle that she would use from the belt, and that would hurt me even more. So again, that was painful, but she also got creative with her torment of me. One night when I got up, I woke up from a nightmare. I went to my parents' bedroom, and because I was scared, she took me back. She pulled me back to my bed, and then she began to tie me to the bed. The ropes went underneath the bed and across my chest. So as a little child, I was about 3.5 perhaps. I was terrified. I thought someone was killing me. I thought I would be dead. It was ghoulish to do that to a child. So how did I suffer from it? I suffered from it in a number of ways. I bit my nails. I
Mhm.
was terrified of the dark. I slept with the light on in my room all the way into my teenage years. I also had nightmares. I had night terrors. I had anger inside of me. So I had all of those feelings inside of me. So we move forward to about 9 years old. That time I was able to develop a compassion for those who suffered or struggled in some way. So if you were bullied by somebody, if you were sick, if you were
mm,
grieving, if you were experiencing some kind of injustice, that bothered me deeply. And that compassion and that empathy was the foundation for me deciding what I wanted to do for my life. And that became clear. I wanted to help humanity. I wanted to help you out there to heal from your wounds. I wanted to help you in some way. So let's fast forward again to about I was aged to 14. My mother was still hitting me at the time. How was I going to survive it? How was I going to get out to go into helping humanity? So at 14, I remember my mother coming at me and with closed fists, and I held up my palm of my hand like that, and I said, "Stop! You can't hit me anymore. From playing sports, I'm stronger, and I will defend myself." So she looked into my eyes and she said, and didn't say a word, walked away, and that was the last time she hit me. So she still degraded and humiliated me, but at least I wasn't being beaten. So I had to figure out though, still how to cope and how to survive this and get out of the house and go and do what I wanted to do in life. So I found two things that helped me. One was the sports that I mentioned. I became an athlete. I played soccer and I played ice hockey. And that the camaraderie, it was terrific. I loved the camaraderie. I loved being outside. I loved that felt confident. I felt respected. And they kept me out of the house, like I said, from the torment that I received. I also found nature very comforting. I love nature. I would get up early in the morning. I would watch the sunrise and I would listen to the birds sing. And I always thought they were singing to me. So these two things were really helping me. Nature, they were helping me cope. They weren't getting the feelings out that I had inside, but temporarily they were helping me cope. So eventually, I got out of the house. I went to college. I had two tracks I could go in: medicine to help humanity, medicine to help you people. And I also had psychology to help. The medicine didn't feel right. Psychology did. So I got a degree in psychology as an undergraduate. And then I went on to graduate school to get a PhD in counseling. Do you have any questions? I'm glad to answer it so far, or I could continue.
definitely, definitely. And I was listening to it, and it is very important for listeners also to understand this. And but yeah, what I hear is that your work wasn't born in a kind of classroom or a textbook. It was born in the lived experience, right? And I think that's exactly why it reaches people so deeply, because there's a difference between someone who understands the trauma intellectually and someone who knows it from the inside, right? So that is much important, I believe. And also, if may I ask you, like, I mean, there's a lot of ideas out there about how emotional healing works. So time heals everything, all wounds, positive thinking, moving on, letting go of things. So these ideas are kind of well intentioned, but from what I understand from your work, that they often miss something fundamental. So if you can share, like, what is that biggest misconception that people carry about healing from the trauma or that deep emotional pain? And so what's the misconception here actually about?
Okay, so I'll start with time doesn't heal the wounds. Time, it will mute the wounds. That's all. It will mute them. It will,
Mm,
like putting a band-aid
mm,
on a self pussy wound. It just covers it. It doesn't heal it. So let me tell you how I found out how to heal it. And then, because I was still had my own issues and my
mm,
own pain inside. So I graduated with the PhD. I was trained in many therapies, many theories, and I went out. I worked in schools. I worked in clinics. I got a job at a university to train graduate students how to be therapists and counselors. And I opened up a small private practice. And what started to happen I was getting referrals when I worked at the university from all different directions. And a lot of the people that I was getting referrals, they were asked me if I would see them in my private practice. And they told me they were abused as children. And I said, okay, let's give it a shot. So I would take them on, I would see them. And I guess I was somewhat successful because I kept getting more refers, but I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't satisfied for me personally because I still had issues inside, and the therapies that I was working wasn't enough. That I was in wasn't enough to heal all those wounds that I had inside. And the people that I was working with, they weren't permanently healing as much as I wanted them to. So I had to decide. I took what worked, what didn't work. I put what didn't work aside and I put what worked into a process, a three-phase process that eventually I was getting the results that I wanted. I was getting permanent long-term healing. It's a deep process. It requires you to go back in time, feel the hurt, who hurt you, and eventually confront the source of who hurt you with feedback. So those three phases were really, really successful. And I still get letters from people from years ago telling me how I helped save their lives, how they went on to live productive and fruitful lives thanks to the therapy that I have and that I help them with. So I feel rewarded by it. I feel there's nothing else I'd rather do in my life is to help you out there. So that's the story. It was just, again, something that I find valuable and I used on myself as well. And I healed myself. So not only did I heal others, the therapy that I founded healed myself as well. So I'm really pleased about that.
Amazing. So, okay. And I'd say that's really the such a crucial distinction because the pain doesn't go away; it just goes underground and finds the expression in other ways as well, right? So that addictions, phobias, depressions, intense anger, you have named these as the behaviors that often signals unresolved wounds beneath the surface, right? So, whew, so what tends to happen when someone finally connects a behavior that they have been struggling with for the years and years to its kind of I'd say the actual emotional source. So what would you say?
It's a great question. Okay, so what happens when a person's hurt, whether it's a child or an adult? They repress these. They repress the hurts and they stuff it down. They suppress it, repress it, whatever you want to call it. So what happens to those feelings? Feelings like feeling worthless, inadequate, empty, lonely, betrayed, not good enough. All those feelings are the feelings that people come to me with. They stuff them down, and what happens is they become an emotionally toxic brew that's
Mm.
swirling around inside of us. Now, even if we stuff it down, the subconscious wants to get those feelings out. They don't like those feelings in our psyche. If that's similar to eating a bad meal and getting food poisoning, our body wants to expel it and it comes out of basically every orifice. It's the same thing with feelings that are repressed or suppressed. They want to come out, but consciously we still don't want to feel them. So what happens is they come out in what I call diversions. They might come out in a phobia, in an addiction, in an eating disorder, in a panic attack, in rage, in road rage. You see that all the time. So they come out in those ways. Like again, I call them diversions because they divert you away from the actual source. So I have to take you and I have to connect it. Repressing of the feelings led to the diversions. That's just a symptom, really. And we have to get all the feelings out. And I guarantee you those symptoms go away once I get all those feelings from you out. And that's what happens with my process. It's exactly what happens.
Wow. So so the behavior was never a kind of real problem. It was only the kind of can say that messenger and a signal pointing back to something earlier, something which is not finished. So yeah, definitely. I understand. Yep. And what healing actually looks like, it's like as you have described that what happens on the other side of this process and kind of language that I find genuinely moving is a brighter heart, and openness to the magic, beauty, and wonder of life. So, from there, I want to ask about, like, not as a concept, but as a kind of lived reality, that what would you, I mean, what do you actually observe in people who have moved through that source completion therapy?
Okay, so recently I worked with an actress, an award-winning singer and actress, who called me and got in touch with me. She had read my book and she saw me on another show, and she said, "Would you see me, please? I've worked in with other therapists and therapies, and it's not helping me. And in fact, it's making me feel worse." So some people worked with me on just the symptom. I worked with what's called EMDR. Are you familiar with it? With you moving your eye? They move your eyes. And I went to a psychiatrist and he just wanted to give me medication, thought I was schizophrenic. Okay, because I was having these out of body experiences and it was terrifying me. So what was happening with the actress, she was in toxic relationships. She was taking drugs and her career was faltering and she couldn't figure out what was going on, what was happening. So when she contacted me, I said, "No, you're not schizophrenic. What's happening, you've stored feelings from your past. Somebody hurt you. You have to get that out. And then all of those symptoms will go away and you'll live a healthier life and you get back on track." So so we did. So I asked her, "Who hurt you?" And we got to the truth. It was her father who abandoned the family, abandoned her emotionally. She felt empty, unimportant, insignificant. And that was the source. And that's what hurt her. And then she relived it. And then she wrote letters to her father, telling him how she was affected by what he did. She got rid of the relationships, all the toxic relationships. Her out of body experiences stopped and she got off the drugs, and her career is now back to flourishing, and she's really successful and happy in her life. And I get emails saying how much she appreciates what I've done for her. So that's how it looks.
Got it. Got it. So, and also, like, I'd love to bring in your book here, that give back the pain, because you have chosen to tell this story not just kind of theoretically, but through real human stories. So, what was behind that choice?
Well, I mean, the people I were working with were so happy in their growth, in their development, in their healing. They said, "Bob, why don't you write a book and get it out to the world?" And I thought about it. I said, "Well, that's a good idea." So I wanted to help you, as many people as I can out there. I wanted to help you, all of the world. So that's what motivated me to write the book.
Amazing. So,
What I didn't
yeah,
do, I think I'm gonna update the book and add a couple of chapters to it. Didn't I only included bits of me in there. I didn't include the whole background, what I explained to you. So I think I'll update that soon. But
okay,
the book is out there right now as Give Back the Pain. And it's just the other day, people told me that somebody I see in sessions told me, "I find it so valuable. I'm
right,
buying more books and giving out to my friends." So it just validates the process and it validates that my work is successful.
exactly, exactly. And here's also what I want to ask about. Like, I want your most answer into this, that healing from deep trauma is not a kind of straight line. People hit the walls and they resist also. They get close to the source and kind of flinch away as well. But they make progress and then something triggers a kind of regression. So, what are that most common ways people get stuck in this process? And how do you help them kind of not give up themselves? What happens
Got it. It's a really great question. Thank you for asking it, Albert. I appreciate that. Okay. This is not a process that's quick. It's not easy. It's not You're not going to be cured on a weekend. Anybody tell you that, I would run away from that as soon as possible. It's fraudulent. Okay. Because people come to me, they've been storing their feelings for maybe 30 years. So that's not going to go away overnight. Sometimes the people that who are repressed feelings, they're frightened, especially in the second stage, where I ask them to go back in time through visualizations, self-hypnosis, to experience the past in the present time. And I do it safely. They have to trust me, and that takes time to develop. So what happens, they might be scared of that process, but I keep that they stay with it. It takes some courage. It takes commitment. It takes persistence. And then they start to feel safe. And then they go into that second stage to go back in time, and that brings the feelings up to the surface. I never push them. I go at their pace. So that's a really great question. Never ever push them. But again, it requires the commitment, perseverance, and the courage in the last phase. The last phase is people are also uncomfortable with because it asks you to confront the source of your pain, the actual source, whether it was an uncle, a father, a brother, a sister, a stranger. It asks you to confront them by giving feedback. Tell them how you were hurt, how they hurt you, how it affected you, and what you felt about it. So along the way, as you said, they have resistance. You have resistance because you don't want to feel pain. No one really wants to do that. I didn't want to do that, and neither do you out there. But
Yeah.
that's what heals. You have to go through this process to make real permanent change. It
Mhm.
won't come with it won't come with behavioral therapy. That just works on the symptoms. So that never works to the way I want it, the way I'm satisfied with.
Mhm.
It won't come with exercise. It won't come with yoga. It won't come with relaxation techniques. Those are good tools. You can do that while you're doing this. I recommend it. But they will only give you peace in the present for the moments. They won't take away any of the feelings that are still inside you.
Exactly.
In fact, I found nothing but this process does that. I wish there was. I wish there was a pill that I could, my people that I deal with could take it. Hasn't happened. So they go through the process. One person that I worked with, she was referred to me. She had an bad eating disorder. She would, and then was bulimic, with which she would throw up. She came to me and she told me the eating disorder. She would binge eat and then she would throw up. And we're doing that for years and years. She went to all the kinds of therapy, any kind of weight program. She would Weight Watchers, whatever, Overeaters Anonymous. Nothing was working. Maybe she was in it for 10 years, all of those mixtures. Somehow she got a hold of my book, read it, and said, would you see me? I said, yes. So what happened there, she was resistant, so resistant that she said, but I know the eating disorder has nothing to do with my past. Okay. And I said, well, actually, it probably does. Let's get to the source. She says, well, that'll never happen. I said, I guarantee you this will happen. You work the process. You work my therapy and you will stop binge eating and you stop throwing up. So we worked for a year. She got into it. She started to believe it because she was getting into the process. She confronted her father. That was the issue. Father was an alcoholic, pushed any affection away from her. He pushed her away. The alcohol was more important to her. So she felt insignificant, worthless, and alone and hurt. When she got to those feelings, she confronted her father. She got the feelings out. She wrote letters to him and confronted him directly. Binge eating stopped, and she's enjoying her life right now. She's actually loving it. It's connected. Any just about any feeling and symptom you have is connected to somewhere where you were hurt.
I agree. I totally agree on that. And like, and this is such an important clarification. I believe that it's a relief for many people to hear because so often that belief that we must forgive before we can heal becomes a kind of, I would say, it's a barrier. And another way of asking that wounded person to do the emotional labor for the person who hurt them, right? So, yeah. And so, one thing definitely I would love to ask you, like, for the person who is listening right now, or maybe they will be listening, who has been carrying something heavy for a very long time, also who has told themselves that what happened wasn't that bad, or that they should be over it by now. So, what would you want them to hear from you this moment?
I am so happy with your questions. I think they're terrific. They're right on target, and they're wonderful, Albert. Thank you. Okay, there's no getting over them with time. There's no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are,
Mm,
ever. You could be 85. If you kept those feelings inside, you're not over it. So
mm,
they have to be expelled out of you, and then you get over it. Time doesn't work. Age doesn't work. telling you, well, it's been 10 years, get over it. That doesn't work. Never. I haven't seen it. I should say I haven't seen it
Yeah,
work in my years, decades of doing this work. I've never seen that.
amazing. And definitely, dear listeners, I have to say one thing, that what Robert has reminded us today is something I believe profound and simple at once as well. Because the behaviors that trouble you most are not the character, they are the echo of that wounds that were never fully tended to. And the first act of healing is not forgiveness, not forgetting, and also not moving on as well. It's that courage to answer that one honest question, like we started with: who hurt you? Right. So for the listeners, I mean, Robert, if someone wants to connect with you, how they can connect?
They could go to my website, pretty simple, robertbleck.com, and they could connect with me. They could email me from the site. They could buy the book. They did my phone number to my office is on listed on the site as well. robertbleck.com.
Lovely. Lovely. So, the listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all these links and the details into the show notes for the easy reference so that you can easily reach out to Robert. And with this, I definitely love to say thank you so much for joining us today on Mind Meets Machine. And if this conversation touched something in you, maybe a memory, a recognition, a quiet ache that you have been carrying for longer than you can remember, please don't scroll past it. Let it be the beginning of something. And you don't have to kind of have it figured out everything. You don't have to be ready too much. You just have to be kind of willing to ask the question. So share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, because someone in your life does, for sure. And also, leave us a review if this conversation meant something to you and it helps more people find the conversation like this one. And we'll be back soon. So until then, like, be honest with yourself, be gentle with yourself, and also remember that brighter heart is not just kind of possible. It's waiting for you. So thank you so much.